Amanda Peg Wheat is joining me from the Thomas Crane Public Library, the Wollaston branch. She has joined us at the QATV studios. Amanda, welcome back. The studio is very familiar to you. You have been, I'm choking on I don't know what. I guess there's allergies out there.
There are.
Yeah. This studio is familiar to you. You've been here. You've actually done science experiments in here.
I have, yes. I've done a science demonstration. I've been over here a few times. Always love coming in.
Yeah, we love having you. Well, it works both ways. Yeah. We love having you. You love coming in. Yeah.
It's a good relationship.
Absolutely. You're here to talk about a program that's happening on Wednesday, April 26th from 7 to 8 p.m. It's something called Petals and Pages, 1940 to 1959.
Yes. So the Wollaston branch celebrated its 100th anniversary this past January. We opened in January of 1923. And
none of us were there to see that.
I wasn't there. Some of the kids
Let's make that clear.
Some of the kids that I work with are very surprised that I'm not 100 years old, but I wasn't there. But it's an amazing thing that that branch has been there 100 years. We've had patrons come in and tell us about being children and coming into the branch as kids and how much they remember it and enjoyed it, and that was how they fell in love with reading. I had a patron bring a poem she wrote about the librarian there to us to have on display during the 100th birthday party. So yeah, we had a big bash back in January. We had a big party. We had cake. We had tons of people. It was a well-attended event. And I thought, I need to celebrate the whole year. The whole year needs to be recognized as our 100th year. So I had an idea for some book discussions that would span the 100 years. So it would cover different time periods throughout the 100 years. And then the Wollaston Garden Club approached me, and they had donated floral arrangements for the 100th birthday party.
And we'll talk about that in just a moment, because that was interesting in and of itself.
It was. And they approached me and said, we'd love to keep doing that. And I said, well, that's great. Let's wrap this together for Petals and Pages. So they're going to be doing a floral arrangement for each of those, themed off of a book from that time period. So that's going to be the discussion, is books from the 40s and 50s. What was the country reading? What was the mindset? How did it change from 1940 to 1959. So you only have to look at the bestseller lists for those time periods to see that there's a huge shift. Obviously, there would be in the 40s and 50s, but it's pretty stark when you look at the titles that were bestsellers.
So what would you like people to do prior to the event? To pick up one of these books?
So any book that was published in the 40s or 50s, anything. And I have bestseller lists that are linked off of the library's calendar event for this event. And you can also just go on like Wikipedia and look for bestsellers from 1940, 41, 42. There are all sorts of lists out there. There are also places that have looked at retrospectively, what are the books that stuck in people's minds that are still popular that came out then, because there were books that were bestsellers then. They were, romance novels or adventure novels, and they didn't stay the course. They were popular then, but no one reads them now. There were authors on there I had never heard of. But then there were other things where I was like, oh yeah, All Quiet on the Western Front. All right, yeah, of course that would be a popular one in that time period. But then you get like Auntie Mame. It's totally different mindset.
Right.
So yeah, all I would really ask is people come ready to talk about the time period, the mindset of the time period, and the books that were being read at the time. Even if you don't finish an entire book cover to cover, just knowing sort of what the titles were out there and be ready to talk about history and books and chat with others.
So it's really like a community conversation.
Yeah. It's a history conversation with books as the jumping off point for that. And
that's a good jumping off point. Absolutely.
It is.
I mean, that's my jumping off point most of the time. Getting back to the Garden Club and what they did for the 100th anniversary, again, they would make a bouquet that reflected a book, even for that event.
They did. So I contacted them asking, would they like to help us out with this. They do the floral arrangements out in front of the branch all the time. They change them out seasonally. They were just there yesterday, changing those out for some spring arrangements. And I wanted to really involve them because I know they're also Wollaston. They were started by the same group that the library was founded by. The Wollaston Women's Club founded both the branch and the garden club.
Oh, did they?
They did.
Okay.
So the Wollaston branch is very much a community-built branch originally. And I knew that the garden club would be a great partner for that sort of thing, for that historical feel, and also for that community feel. This is the neighborhood branch. And they were very enthusiastic, and they responded with more than I had wanted to ask. I wasn't going to try and ask a ton of them. But then they were like, yeah, we'd love to make some floral arrangements, and we'll theme them off of book covers. And they had, I think, 5 different floral arrangements. They had 5 different design. Actually, they had 6 designers. 2 worked as a pair. And they each picked a different book and used the book cover as the inspiration for the floral arrangement. And they were absolutely gorgeous.
They were amazing. I took a look at them and I said,
beautiful.
wow, that's dead on.
Yeah.
You know?
There's one that was, the book cover had a woman wearing a lot of lace with a brooch on at the neckline. And it was this beautiful white hydrangea arrangement with black lilies around it because the dress is black, with a seashell brooch right in the middle of the flowers. Gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, they did amazing work. And then what we did was we gave them away. People could put their names in. It was a free entry. You just had to put your name down. And then we drew names at the end of the night, and people got to take those flower arrangements home, which we're going to do again for Petals and Pages. So we're going to be giving away the floral arrangement. It's going to be visible at the branch the week leading up to. So on Monday, the floral arrangement will be dropped off. People can come in and see it prior to the event, and then the night of the event, we'll be giving it away.
So how do you foresee, I suppose, the layout for folks at this event?
So Wollaston doesn't have a meeting room. Obviously, we don't have an event space. But I already run an adult event once a month at that branch where we push the tables all together, and that's what I'm planning on doing. That branch has to be pretty flexible, so the tables are easy to move, so we're just going to put them together. I have a little display space for the floral arrangement that's already set up and has a poster drawn by one of the garden club members. Absolutely beautiful. She drew the entrance to the building, and it's gorgeous. So that's up where the flower arrangement will be. And then when people come in, they can just come join us, sit down, and we'll start chatting about the books they read. Bring a book if you want to. If you can't bring it with you, but you remember something you read before that's in that time period, come and tell us about it.
Well, looking at that time period, certainly, and looking at the table next to you,
Yeah.
there was a physical book back then. There's physical books next to you.
Yes.
That's not always the case now.
It's not. No, we have a lot of streaming materials. We have a lot of ebooks. And that's a really good way for people to access books that may be harder to get a hold of these days physically, because copies fall apart. Books are not made to last forever and ever. Very few of them do, especially mass market books. So getting a hold of a copy online is a great way to do that. That's a fantastic alternative. It's also wonderful for people who have any sort of visual difficulties, because they can change the font, they can change the size of the font, and that makes it easier to read. So they may not be coming in with the actual physical book with them, but maybe they're coming in with the memory of a book. That's fine too. That's part of the conversation is, what you read maybe as a kid. I've had a number of patrons who were alive in the 40s and 50s as young adults come in and ask me about the event. Like, yeah, come in. Tell me what you read in high school.
And I
I'd love
think
to hear that.
Well, I think I see this as sharing, definitely a sharing event.
Yeah.
So you may come in with something to share, and you will gain something
Yes.
from the conversation by the end of the
Definitely.
evening.
Yeah, that's my hope, is that people will be inspired to share their own stories, to share what they loved about the books in that time, their memories of that time period if they were alive then, and then maybe leave with a different book that someone else recommends to them, which I've done in the past with a book club for middle schoolers. We did basically was a book talk book club. You'd read your own book, come in, tell everyone else about it, and they would trade books back and forth across the table. I would love to see that happening for this as well.
Very good. I hope it does. We should mention that this is actually, I guess we could call it part of a trio of events.
So it's a 3-part event, though you don't have to come to all 3. The first one is this month in April and is on the 1940s and 1950s. And then in August, we're going to be doing the 80s and 90s, doing the sort of fin de siècle, end of the century, end of the millennium. What were people reading? What was the mindset then? And then in November, we are doing present day, read a new release, something that came out this year or last year. Let's talk about where we are now and where we've come from, where the branch is now, where Quincy is now, and the past 100 years to close out the year.
And obviously, folks can get information. You're welcome back to talk about those in this similar interview setting. But folks can give the branch a call. They can go on to the website.
They can call us. The branch's number is the main number for the library, and we're extension 9 because we're a W, so we're the end of the alphabet. So we got the last extension.
I see, okay.
But we are extension 9. They can also email quwcirc@ocln.org, and that's the branch email. So I'm going to see that, my assistant's going to see that, anyone who accesses the branch email will see that, and anyone who's working at the branch can access that email. So we can get back to people very quickly, even if I'm not working.
So when you say the main phone number?
617-376-1300. And then there's a phone tree to pick from, so we're extension 9. And then they can also just come into the branch and come say hi to us, see the branch. There are a lot of people who haven't been in the branch since they were kids. There are a lot of people who didn't realize there is a Wollaston branch, which no shade on that. It's a very tiny building, and it's not immediately visibly obvious in the same way the main library is. So,
or even some of the other branches.
Exactly. If you are, say, walking down Beale Street on the opposite side, you're not going to notice it's there necessarily. But when I tell people, oh yeah, it's right across the street from the CVS, it's right around the corner from the T station, they're like, oh, that cute little building. That's, oh, I always wondered. Oh, I should go in. And then they come in and this is so cozy. Yes, it is.
Well, this is a perfect event for those who know the library branch to come back, and for those who don't, to be introduced.
Yes.
Well, Amanda, thank you very much. Have a great event.
Thank you.
And we'll see you, I guess, promoting other events happening at Wollaston throughout the year.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.